3. Chaz despaired. And then suddenly the night turned white. Black, white, black, white. A great hammer banged on the dark tin tray of the sky, crushing their eardrums again and again. Anti-aircraft guns. Then, in the following silence, came the noise of an aircraft engine. Chug, 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 chug. One of theirs, whispered Kem. The dog whined and fled. Fanny Hardy shouted, and the whole group of bystanders were streaking away to the nearest shelter. Then the hammer was beating the sky again. Echoes of its blow rippled away, like someone slamming doors further and further off down a corridor. Chaz stared at the sky, trying to guess where the nice next white flashes would come from. Then came a scattered pattern moving west, 5 at a time. 3 was the gun at the castle. That was the gun at the castle. Then a group of 3 together. That was the guns at Wilmington Quay. What shall we do? Whispered Audrey. Take your bike and get to a shelter. We can manage without you. But I shouldn't be out in the open during an air raid. You don't think these trees will shelter you from anything, said Chaz brutally. She went wobbling wildly across the waste ground. What about us? Said Kem. I'm getting this gun home while the streets are empty. The air raid's the best chance we got. The wardens stop us, not if we go to Boggy Lane. Boggy Lane was a little used tinder track that led through the allometers to your house, to your home. No one will think of looking there. Right, come on then. The blackness of light was back. As they dragged and bounced through the dark, the warning note of the air raid siren sounded. Dozie's swine, caught asleep as usual, said Kem in disgust. It's a sneak raider. They've collided in without engines, and he's hit something. Kem noted to the west, with a rapidly growing yellow glare was lighting up the roofs tops. Or else they got him. Must be a Howden way. Only the one. All clear will sound in a minute. But it didn't. They were halfway up Boggy Lane where they heard the chug 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 of enemy engines again. More than one, 6 or 7. Ahead, the night light lit up as if great blue floodlights had been switched on. Blue points of light hung motionless in the sky, brighter than stars. They're dropping parachute flares. The chug 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 grew nearer. They felt like they're 2 small flies crawling across a white tablecloth. Up there, thought Chaz, Nazi bomb airers were staring down through black goggles, teeth clenched, hands tight on bomb release toggles, waiting for the crosshairs of the bomb sights to meet on Boggy Lane, and the 2 flies who crawled there. They dived for cover into a patch of white winter broccoli. It's not safe, because I had summoned the vegetable racket home. Chaz envied the broccoli, because whatever happened, it would still be growing here tomorrow in the same world of daylight. Just ordinary. As ordinary as the Fry's chocolate sign that the allometer owner had used upside down to mend a hole in his fence. Chug, chug, chug. Overhead now. They were safe because bombs always dropped in a curve in front of bombers. He had watched them fall in newsreels off the Polish campaign, out of black Stukas. Bang, bang, bang. The hammer was as again, right overhead. This meant a new danger, falling shell shrapnel. Chaz could hear it, whispering and powdering down like steel rain all around. Go on, screamed Chaz. Get the bastards. Kill the bastards. Then silence. Blackness. Nothing. The parachute flares had gone out. Come on, shouted Chaz, dragging Kem to his feet. They'll be back in a minute. The boggy wheels crunched along the cinders, and they could hear the hard knock-knock of the machine guns on the boggy's planks. They got back to the square before trouble started again. A rough hand grabbed Chaz's shoulder. Where the hell have you been? It was his father, wearing a tin hat. Your mother's worried sick. She knew I was going down Churton, squawked Chaz. Get down the shelter. Who's that with you? Kem. Get him to sit down as well. I'll go and tell his mother he's safe. What about the guy? Mr. McGill dragged the buggy roughly against the garden hedge. It'll have to take its chance. You and me had me worried sick, said Mrs. McGill. And Mrs. Pauling's here too. Mrs. Spaulding nodded and sniffed. Her son Colin in the bottom bunk looked self-righteous. Her Colin never leaves her back garden at nights. He's a good lad. And I was cooking fish and chips when the sirens went, and I had to turn off the gas, and now they're ruined. And I don't know what else we're going to have for supper, because they only dry bread in the house. And your father is supposed to be on night shift, and he can't get one to work for the raid, so we'll have no money. And I wonder what they don't pay him for being a warden. After all, he works hard enough at it. Chaz lay back on the bunk and let the world drift over his head. He was thinking about the machine guns out there in the dark, and leading Cyril off straying with you. Cemetery's real name was Cyril, which was why he preferred being called Cemetery. I mean, leading Cyril astray like that. If anything had happened to him, I could never have looked Mrs. Jones in the face again. Bairns shouldn't be let wander in the dark these days. Real wickedness, I call it, said Mrs. Spaulding. Charles shot her look of hate from the shadow of his bunk. She had fat knees and ginger stockings, which kept straying apart so he could see she was wearing apricot knickers. Her legs were mottled through sitting too close to the fire. His mother's legs, dangling over his head, had pinker stockings, and thank God she always kept her knees together. They sat round, bleary-eyed in the dawn light. No more windows had been broken in the kitchen. The paraffin heater and gas stove were on again. I put Ken's buggy in the greenhouse, said Mr. McGill. My God, it's a rare weight. What'd we make his guy of? Drain pipes? Dunno, said Charles, cutting his fried bread into careful cubes. I'll take it back tonight. You can take it back this morning. No school today. The all clear's still not gone. Do you think it's safe? Asked Mr. McGill, her husband, looking out of the cloudless November sky. They'll not come again, or the RAF lads at Acklington will have something to say about it. Is there more damage in the town? Nothing. It was Howden that copped it. They hit a gas main and it's still burning. After breakfast, Charles crept down to the greenhouse with his father's spanner. The greenhouse had a boiler and hot water pipes for heating before the war, when coke was off the ration. Now it was drained dry, and Charles had found he could take the end off the big fat hot water pipes. The machine gun could be slid down inside, if he could get those sticking out drums off it. He fiddled with them carefully. He didn't want to blow the end of his father's greenhouse. He got them off in the end. One was full of live bullets and the other full of spent cartridge cases. Charles hesitated. He'd have liked to have taken one or two bullets to school to show them round, but once Fat Hardy found the bomber's tail, he'd been round at the schools making inquiries, and there was always some kid who blabbed. Better safe than sorry. He wrapped the gun in cloth and slid it into the water pipe without looking at it further. He screwed the end of the water pipe back on. He hid the drums of bullets in the thick straw of Chinny's hutch. He just finished when his father came down. You putting Kem's guys to bits? Charles controlled a guilty start and said casually, just mending the leg. You leave that to Kem. It's his guy. I sometimes think you're a bit too free with other people's property. Got no sense of mine and thine. That's your trouble. Charles said humbly, Yes, Dad. Mr. McGill cocked an eyebrow at such humble obedience. But he soon wandered off to poke at the chrysanthemums. For some reason, Fatty Hardy did not want to go back to find the bombers. Others did. 2 days later, Kem whispered to Charles in a school assembly, You know those round things full of bullets? Got 4 more. They were clipped to the fuselage round the gunner's feet. Where you got them? Under some plant pots in the shed. It's all right. Dad never goes there since the war. They're all cobweb and chrysalis. Look at this one. It's live. Chaz jumped an inch from the air, but it wasn't a brass bullet. Kem held out inside his hymn book. Only a black and yellow chrysalis. You can hear it tapping to get out. Is the gunner still there? Yeah, few. He don't have half nip-naff. I don't know how you can stand it, said Charles savagely. Ain't you got no feelings? You get used to it. It's in the family. When my father went on an embalming course, he saw one fella eating his sandwiches, reading a book propped against a body. Yerk, said Charles loudly. If you insist on talking in assembly, boy, boom the head. You can have a little talk with my cane afterwards. Yes, you with the freckles and 3A. Yes, you, and who's turning around to look behind him so innocently. Three of the best for you. Now school, him 235. New every morning is the love. But getting the cane was not the worst. 2 days later, Charles saw crowds standing around Bodzer Brown in the playground. They were all looking at something and laughing. Chez hated Bodzer. He had round spectacles and cropped hair like a German, and a great gangling grown-up body. He was stupid and a bully, an arm twister who made his pleasure last a long time. One day last term, he and his gang had held the kid's head down the toilet and flushed it 3 times. The kid nearly drowned and was off school for a week. Bodzer got caned. But you might as well cane a rhinoceros. Glass sometimes dreamt of being in his skull with an iron bar. But he could never leave Bodzer alone. He was so easy to take the mickey out of. And when he started to get rough, you could always shout, Quick, fists! Slow wits, or Don't get worked up, you'll give yourself a heart attack. Then everyone would laugh, because no one liked Bodzer really. And Bodzer was nearly as afraid of laughter as Chaz was as afraid of Mickey. Out of Bodzer was like bullfighting, deadly but fun. Chaz walked across to the laughing group. "Hey, what's up?" "Ha, McGill," said the Bodzer, "king of the incendiary bombs. Why don't you wear your nose cone permanently? It would go with your spectacles." That was a titter. Bodzer flushed. "Got something better than a nose cone to wear. Look." He dangled a black leather flying helmet under Chaz's nose. Chaz didn't have to guess it belonged to the German gunner. His nose told him. "But," he said calmly, "where'd you get that? Woolworth's?" "Never you mind that genuine Nazi. And so this money," he showed a fistful of notes, marked with Hitler's face and swastikas. "And what about this Mein Liebling?" she called. He thrust out a photo of a blonde girl with pigtails. "She won't be getting any more you-know-what for a bit." There was a brown trickle down one corner of the photograph. Chaz broke out in the sweat and felt sick. Bodzer had been through the dead man's pockets. Chaz turned away abruptly and walked towards the cloakrooms. "That's better than your rotten shrapnel," shouted Bodzer in triumph after him.